Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and get started here. My name is Rosalind Helps. I am the web manager at BYU Studies. So I run their website. We publish a quarterly journal, a scholarly journal, which we sell on the website. We sell print copies and PDFs. So we deal with e-commerce, and we have a sort of e-store. And Rules is one of the main modules that we use to make sure everyone's subscriptions are working, and oh, it's lots of fun. Who here is just starting out with Drupal? Anybody okay? Perfect. Okay, this is great. What I want to do with my presentation, I want to go through and talk about Rules, which is like it's a pretty popular module, and I'm just going to show how to use it, how to set up some basic rules, how it might be helpful on your website. So this is great. Okay, so. And if you do have your laptop out, feel free to follow along. So Rules, let's go over to the website here. If you're just starting out with Drupal, in order to actually, oh, it's not actually showing. Let's do, is it gonna, oh, okay, apparently I have to escape this. There we go. Just like any other module in Drupal, you go to drupal.org. If you take a look at the Rules website or web page, you can see, where is it, down at the bottom, how many people use this module. It's considered one of the core ones. I don't know if it's actually included in core in Drupal 8, if anybody knows. Lots of people use it. There's a lot of support for it, and there are a lot of other modules that work with Rules. So you can go to the website. It's just project/rules, download it. I am going to be showing how it works on this basic Drupal site that I've set up. And this is another really useful resource. It's simply Test Me, where you can just set up a Drupal site online. It's online for 24 hours. It's free. You can log in and test whatever modules, install distributions and such. So that's what we're going to be using. So Rules, what exactly is it? Rules is a module that, oh, there we go, allows you to do basically a bunch of if-then statements. It's kind of like coding with a UI. If any of you know or have worked with PHP, I have not. I am not a programmer, but I do have the Drupal website. And Rules is helpful because it allows me to do a bunch of things that if I knew coding would be really easy. I don't, but Rules does make it easy. So you can define events on your website and then have other things happen when those events are triggered, basically. If you're familiar with, there's a core module called Trigger, which is like a basic version of this, but it comes when you install Drupal, but I would definitely recommend Rules. So a couple things that I use it for in particular is just to solve little problems that we have on our website. It kind of replaces like custom modules. For instance, here we have, this is our add to cart form. And we have this set up so that if you are a subscriber and you are not logged into our website and you come to a page where you can purchase a journal or an article, the add to cart form says, well, it's free for subscribers and you have to purchase it. However, if you are a subscriber and you're logged in, the text changes. That top text goes away. The price changes to 0. The add to cart says download PDF. People can just click on it, download that article. And that is done by Rules. It goes in, it checks to see if the person's logged in. It recognizes their role. If they have a subscriber role, then they remove this. The Rules actually goes in and removes that text. So you can do all sorts of things with it. This is just one handy little thing that we figured out that we could do with Rules. And again, you could probably do this with a custom module with like coding. We We actually tried it that way at first, but the commerce add to cart form is a headache and a half. We couldn't get it to work. So rules, save the day. A couple other things that are neat about rules, you can create components, and I'll get into that a little bit later, which you can reuse over and over again in various places in your site. So it's really handy. And it integrates really well with some other popular modules. Views bulk operations is a big one. That helps with your workflow, like on the back side, for instance, of your website, and you can create custom actions and such that you can use with VBO. Also commerce. Commerce relies on rules quite a bit. So let's get into just some of the basic pieces of rules. So actually, let's do this really quick. Where is it? Okay. So if I have a website and I have already installed the rules module on here, and I am going to go in and take a look and just see what the rules looks like, the module itself. When you install rules module, there's actually 3 different modules that comes with it. You want to enable probably all of them. There's rules UI, which gives me this little interface right here, and then rules scheduler. One thing that rules does allow you to do is, besides just triggered events on the site, you can schedule things to happen on your site to help with automation. But so here we come into rules. This is the sort of screen that you would see here. It's really basic. But let's add a new rule quick. We're just going to show you. Okay. There are 3 basic pieces or parts to rules. Events, and they're called events, conditions, and actions. You can see you work with all 3 just on this initial page. And let's, is there a faster way to like go back and forth if anyone knows that? There we go. Okay, so events, like I was saying, they are things that happen on your website. They are defined usually already. Rules comes with a bunch of defined events. However, other modules can provide special events. For like the add to carts form that we were working with, we actually went with a module called stock that added like an event, like when a product is added to the cart, which was great. They are kind of, if you think of it as like the if-then statements, events are kind of like when. When this happens on your site, then you'll work with what follows. So they also determine which entities are available for you to work with. Entities, for those who are new to Drupal, are, well, actually entities is kind of a vague term. It can be basically anything on your site. Any piece of content, any like field, almost, whatever you want to work with. Users, for instance. Users can be entities. Pages. And the events, some of the events sort of, it kind of narrows down on which entities you're going to be able to use. So part of the trick of rules when you are trying to figure out what you want to do is to find an event that allows you to actually access the entity that you want to work with. So with the add to cart form, we had to find one that allowed us to actually access that form. And then also work with users and such. And again, I'll show you more of this. It's kind of confusing to explain, but I find it easier to be shown. So that was entities. Next, we have conditions, which are like the if statements. So we have when this happens on the site, if it meets these conditions. There's a lot of conditions as well. So like if a user has a particular role, if the content is brand new on the site, If there are a certain number of users on the website, lots of different conditions. And again, they kind of help you pull in the entity that you're going to be working with. And then we have the fun part, in my opinion, is actions. And that's where you actually define what's going to happen. It's the then part of it. So like if, what's another good example besides users? If a particular type of content is published, then we're going to send out emails to like the author of that piece of content. Again, lots of things you can do with these. Are there any questions so far, by the way? Please stop me if I'm being confusing. Yes?
So you mentioned that you installed a stock module or something?
Yes.
So that you could do conditions on add to cart?
Yes. Uh-huh.
So are there a lot of modules that add conditions to modules?
There, yeah, I would say so. A lot of, like the established modules do have, it's not just conditions, it's like events as well, where they add particular events that will enable you to work with whatever like special content or whatever that like module brings. So let's see, what's another example? I mean, Commerce has a lot of plugins that come with rules. Basically, any module can, if they add it into their code, can have like hooks or events added that you can work with, then work within rules. So, and also core itself, just the core Drupal, has like a list of events that are always available to rules and with conditions as well. Oh, that's a good question. Okay, so let's do, oh, right. Okay, this is something, this is an idea just to get in mind. Again, I'll be talking about it more a little bit later. It's a little bit more complex of an idea, but with rules, something to remember is that events kind of, like I said, they help narrow down which entities you're going to be able to work with, and then entities provide the data, the specific data. It's like one more step below. So like which fields, which taxonomy terms, or like which users and such. All of those little pieces of data are attached to events. So if you, or excuse me, entities. So if you think of like a content type, let's say an article, and the article has an image field, if you want to work for that image field, you have to pull in that article node. So just keep in mind we have events. We're kind of narrowing it down to entities, and entities sort of narrow down into these little pieces of data called variables, which we use with our conditions and actions. So, okay, how many of you play Pokemon Go? Anybody? Yeah, raise your hands. Awesome. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. I was talking to a group of people like right before lunch about this, so I figured this might be a good example. We're going to create just a very basic rule using Pikachu. Hey, Pikachu. Okay. So the goal of this basic rule is to, on like the user's page, just display an image of Pikachu. We can do this with rules. We're going to say it's just only for authenticated users, so people who aren't logged into the website will not see Pikachu. And the modules, the two modules that we're using, rules obviously, and then file entity just so we can work with upload images. So I've already uploaded the picture of Pikachu, and I have gone to user's account page and added an image field. Oopsies. Now we're going to go into rules. Oops. And let's see. Well, quick, I'll show you. No, we'll do it this way. No, there's no shortcut from there either. Sorry, I keep on going back to the beginning because I'm sure there's a shortcut for going back to the page you were on, but is it the Alt Tab? Because it wasn't showing the other page. I'll try it again. Okay, let's just do this really quick. So this is the basic steps for creating a rule. There are a couple different types of rules. You'll see there's like rules, rule sets, or reaction rules and such. But the basic that you're going to use for like 90% of the time is just rules. Once you create a rule, you're going to choose your event. We're going to set our conditions. We're going to set our actions. And in this particular case, the event that we're going to use is when a user account page is viewed. For our goal, the better option would be like when the user is created, so it's like not changing every single time the account page is viewed, but we're going with this because it's easier to show on the the test site that I have. So, okay, Alt Tab. Let's see if that actually shows up this time. No, okay. That's weird. I wonder why it's not working. Okay, so here we go. We are in rules. We're going to create a new rule here. We're going to name it You Found Pikachu. And this is where you select events. We're going to do user, account page is viewed. Okay. Tags are just, you can add tags to allow you to sort through. If you have a lot of rules like I do on my site, they're really helpful. But I'm going to skip them for now. Okay, so we have our event. Now we're going to add a condition. So you can see, again, a lot of these conditions, sorry if I'm blocking anyone's view, are provided by core. They're right out of the box. And most of the time, you're going to be using data comparison. You can use that for all sorts of things. In this particular case, though, I'm coming down to user. You can see there's a couple things that you can do with users. And we're going to make sure that, again, it is the authenticated user. So, okay. First thing you'll notice is like this data selector here. This is helping you pick which attribute or field you are working with. In this case, we want to check if they're authenticated. Account basically here means user. And it's saying, okay, so you have a list of other things I guess this one would also work, like current user and such. But we're just going to be using the one that they provided. So the account that we're looking at, that the site is going to be looking at, the user, we're going to see if it has the authenticated user role. And we come down, and these are all of these fields are just provided out of the box by Drupal. We can match the roles. Okay, we want it to be all of authenticated user. We hit save. So okay, again, this is going to trigger when someone views their own account page. The website is going to check that particular user, see if they have the role authenticated user. And now we put in the action. Here, you can scroll through and see there are a lot of things you can do. Lots of variety. You can work with the messages that appear, like the status messages that appear on your website. You can work with other users, or you can change the URLs, redirect people, all sorts of actions. And set a data value is, again, one that you use a lot with rules. Now we, again, have to find that image field. Okay, so we come in. this image field is attached to the user entity, and user being what it's calling account right here. So we're going to go to the account, and you'll notice that there are two options for account. One that's just basic, and one that has the dots after it, the more options. The account in this case means like the whole user. We want to be more specific than that. So we're going to come down to the second option, and it's actually going to show us a list of the fields that are attached to that user. And we're going to come down. I named that field Pokemon. And we want to be even a little bit more specific. We have to come down and choose the file for that field. So here we go. So we know now what field specifically we're working with, and we are going to set the data value of it, or set the file. And in this case, we want to do something called switch to direct input mode, which allows you to just put in a specific identifier. We're going to choose that specific image, which I think it's the first image. We'll see. I'm using the FID, the file identifier. You can find those by coming to content, files. Let's check here. And if you are editing the file, oh, it's kind of hard to see, but the file ID is actually right here. And this is similar to like nodes and everything. It's just down here in the URL, or if you clicked on it, I think it should show up in the URL up here. Oh, yep, right up here. So we actually want 2, not 1. So we're going to do 2. Okay. Okay, and that's all we need to do for this rule. So now, theoretically, when I go and look at my account page, because I am an authenticated user, let's refresh the page, I should view, hey, I found Pikachu. Okay, does that make sense so far, what we've done? Any questions? Okay, yeah.
So basically in the content structure,
Uh-huh.
for the user type, you had to add a field
I
for
did.
everybody.
I did. I went in beforehand. I kind of cheated that way, and I added a Pokemon field basically, so that everyone could see it. So there's a couple things with this rule. The problem is once it's set, I mean, it's always there. Well, actually, that's not a problem because you don't see other people's accounts pages. But we'll work with a little bit more. Well, we'll make it a little bit more dynamic in a minute. Okay, so can I just?
How many conditions can you set?
It's an unlimited amount. You can have as many as you want. Typically, I think the most I've seen on one is like 4. But you can get more complicated than that too, with components and sub-rules basically, which I'll show you next. So you can have quite a number of conditions on there. Let's see. Nope, that didn't work either. I'm just bad at this. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to go into some more, we'll show you how you can make it more complex. So components are the next sort of basic structure of rules, and this is how you make sub-rules. Components are basically like mini rules that you will attach to a main rule. They don't actually require events because that's provided by the main rule. And they don't, well, you don't even have to put conditions and such on them, although that is typically why you're using them. They allow you to form sort of chains of rules. And they are helpful if you do want to add more conditions than, say, for example, with our subscribers, we have different types of subscribers. We have like those who are just visiting the site for, and they have a digital subscription, I should say, and then others just have the print subscription. So if we have a rule that we want to apply to both types of subscribers, but we want to specify slightly different actions for both types of subscribers, we have to come in, we have to create a component. One component is for if they're print, another component is if they're digital, and then we can stick them under the main rule. And most of these same actions will apply to them, but we can tailor it specifically to those types of subscribers. So it's really helpful. Components make use of variables. We were talking earlier about how events determine which entities you're going to use, and entities provide those little variables. You have to set those variables when you're using components. It's the only way that they'll connect to your main rule. So I'll show you. We're going to do a second example. This time we're going to pick the Pokemon. So if you don't play Pokemon Go, there are 3 teams: red, blue, yellow. In this situation, we're going to say that when users come to your website and they register to your website, they can pick which team they're on. And then what we can do from there is display a different image depending on which team they're part of. So I've uploaded more images, and we're going to be using that same field that I created on the account page. Okay. Doesn't work, doesn't like me. Okay. Okay, so let's come back to our rules here. We're going to create a new rule because we are going to actually, no, we can, just so we can switch back and forth here. Microsoft, I have learned, will autocorrect you if you don't spell Pokemon with the accent. It also knows how to spell Pikachu, Charmander, and like Bulbasaur and stuff. It's kind of... okay, we want... We're going to use the same event. However, we are not going to set any conditions right here. This is the trickier part with rules. This is the hardest part, well, the part I had the hardest time understanding. We've created our main rule, but now we're going to have to actually go back and create our component rule. So if you come back to the main page of rules, you'll see over here we have components and settings and such. We're going to click on components, and we are going to add a new component. Okay, so again, there are various types. We have action set is used a lot. Well, I guess it's a little bit different from reaction, but condition sets, if you want to do, actually, I'm not entirely sure when people use condition sets versus just like setting conditions on the rule, but this is, you can have a whole bunch of conditions, I guess. We're going to just be using the, which one do we want? Rule or rule set? Rule is just like one rule. Rule set is if you have several rules within the one component. We'll just do this one. And this one's going to be team, let's see, what's the red team called? Valor? So if Valor. Okay. This is where these variables come in. So here we have our main rule set up with the event when they view their user page, and we have this component that we're going to connect to that main rule, and the sort of connection string is that is a variable. That's the way I like to think of it. We're going to be working with users, so in order for the component to know which entity we're working with, we have to basically select it here. So we have a list of things that we can work with, including lots of lists. We're going to choose user as our data type because, again, that's what we're checking to see the role of the user. The label and the machine name doesn't really matter. And usage, you're going to probably leave it on parameter again, like 90% of the time. But you can do some cool things where it provides a variable where like subsequent rules can then mess around with that, but we're just doing parameter. Save it, and now it's like creating a rule. Again, we come into conditions. We're going to add the condition user has role. Now, again, I've cheated a little bit, and I've gone back and created 3 different roles for the 3 teams, Valor, Mystic, Instinct. So these are like, if on the registration form the user had selected Team Valor, it would give them this role. So we're going to work with them first. We're going to come down, we're going to add an action. Again, it's set a data value. We come in, we want to find the users. It says user instead of account because that's what I labeled it as with the component. The Pokemon field, we go to the file, and we want Team Valor is red, so we want Charmander, which is going to be number 3. Oops. We want direct input mode, though. There we go. Okay. Save it just one more time. Cool. So this is our first component. If we go back to the rule now with pick your Pokemon and come down to actions, we have the option to, we have a component rule. There's our component rule. We add that. Now this is connecting that variable on the other end. So we set that data type user on the condition. Now we have to go in the rule, the main rule, and say, okay, so this is what we mean by that variable, which entity we have defined as user, and that's the account. Okay. Oh, I need to make sure that other rule is turned off. We'll do that in a second. Okay. Now, for it to show the other 2, we need to add 2 more of those components for the other 2 teams. You can clone rules and components very easily. We're just going to change this really quick to okay, that changed it. Oops, I wanted save, not add more. Save. And the only difference on this one, Team Mystic, we want to show a different image, which is number 1. Cool. Then we're going to clone this one again for the last team. Change the image to team 2. Or image 2. Save changes. Coming back, this is the main rule again. We're going to add those other 2 components which we just created. Which is the one I'm missing? I think it's Instinct. Instinct, okay. Mystic, thank you. Okay, cool. We are ready to go. Well, actually, I need to go and turn off that first rule. Okay, we're going to disable that one. Okay, and we're going to come in and edit my account quick and give me one of these. Let's go with Valor. Okay. We might need to clear the cache for this. Oh, did I put in the wrong? Why is it not showing? There we go. It just needed to be refreshed. Okay, so I am Team Valor. I went to view my page, and so now I see a Charmander. Theoretically, if I change myself now to Mystic, we'll get a Squirtle. Did I change that one? It's probably cache. Yeah. Sometimes with rules, I mean, oftentimes with rules, you have to go in and clear the cache after, which I do not have that.
These rules run in order.
They do.
So if you were to give yourself two different roles, so if you were Team Instinct and Team Valor, you check both of those boxes.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe whichever one ran last, correct?
I believe so, yes. It also works where if you have two rules that happen on the same event, you can give them a weight to see which one goes off first. Sorry, I think we have to clear the cache with just inside the site itself, unless I forgot to change the. Smart. I don't know how that works with the Simply Test Me site. We'll see. Oh, I think I did the component wrong. Let's go and check really quick. Once you've added the components to the rule, you can actually edit the components from there as well, which is kind of handy. Okay, oh. This is Team Valor, that's correct. Oh, is that Team Mystic? That's why. Forgot to change the roles. Okay. So in this particular case, I forgot to change the roles on the component. So each time I was checking if I was on Team Valor, and it was saying, great, it's on Team Valor, display that image. Okay. Ah, okay, it's being stubborn. It just likes Charmander. One thing that we can do here, and this is actually very helpful, you can, in your settings on rules, they have a debug mode. So you come in over to settings, you can show, again, you probably want to, well, you set that to always show debug information. This is based off of permissions, so like you don't have random just users seeing this. You can set who sees it. But when we then, if we have the correct admin role, whenever an event is triggered, it will show the information right here. This is super helpful if you have complex rules in particular. So it's showing me the exact order of events that are going on. And we see here that, okay, so here's the event. Here's the rule that's firing. It's evaluating those if-then, those conditions of the component. It says, okay, so I do not have, looks like I don't have role valor. It's coming up as false, which means I don't have valor. It says I don't have instinct either. It's evaluated false. But I do have team mystic. I have that role. And so it's firing the mystic role, and it's doing the set data, which is what it's supposed to be doing. So why is it not setting it? Oh, I might have to unset it first. Okay, there's some more debug stuff I could do right now, but I think we should move on. The idea, though, is if I had done this properly, it would switch depending on the role. And I think what the problem is I need to go and have it unset, basically clear the image out before it resets it. I'm not 100% positive that's what's going on, but well, that wasn't quite as exciting. Okay. All right. Let's see. So with that rule, we created the main rule, then we created the components, which is similar process, and then we went and attached it to the main rule. The last thing that I want to go over with rules, which are very helpful, are called lists and loops. Well, mostly loops. Oftentimes you have fields that are multi-valued, like taxonomy, vocabulary, for instance. And rules handles that with this thing called loops, which will allow you to grab that multi-value field and go through each of the values, and you can affect every single value in that list. So if an author has several pieces of content, it can go through and it would check if they were all listed in like one particular list. It can go through and affect each pieces of those content. Excuse me. One that we use loops with a lot is with commerce, because we have to check all of the products in a cart, for instance. And loops allows us to do that. Again, for PHP coders, it's like a for each loop with a UI. And loops are great because you can use components with them as well. So you can get really complicated, really layered. I'm just going to show you some examples from our website for these. So whenever we publish a new journal, we set up some rules so that it will go through and check our subscribers' expirations, and our subscriptions are kind of weird. They're not based off of like a specific time period, but like on how many issues someone has received. And so it will go through and check, and if the user has like a particular issue number, if it's like matching the journal that we just published, it will expire that subscriber. And then we will also send out emails for those who are going to be expiring soon. And I will show you on here. This is our rule. This is when the new journal is published. If you come down here, you'll see this is our loop, one of many loops. This is actually a pretty long rule with various component rules. But in this, we'll start with this first one. Let's see. It's pulling this list of which subscribers? It's pulling up the subscribers who are going to be expiring. They have like a 1-year subscription, essentially. And loops are pretty easy to use. If you add in a loop, there's just a couple things that you have to do. Again, you just pick the list, and then it wants you to name the list item so that whatever you do next with the actions, it will know which item to grab. So all of this allows us to also grab the 1-year subscribers, and then the 2-year subscribers, and then the 3-year subscribers, and then not the expiring ones, and we do a whole bunch of stuff with it. But loops makes that possible. The other rule that we use a lot are when people subscribe, it sets their expiration issue. And that's, again, using components. I had it up right here. This is actually another pretty complex set of rules, but it doesn't seem that way until you start looking at each of the component rules. So it goes through, it picks up whichever issue we're on, and it sets an expiration date on the user based on that journal. It updates their user account page. It checks a whole bunch of stuff. It's really handy. It just took a while to set up. Ask Katria, she's the one who helped me get all of these started. So again, loops let you loop through a bunch of multi-valued fields. Okay. Any questions about loops or components? Anything like that? Kind of information overload maybe, but okay. The tips and tricks, these are kind of more like if you've been using rules a little bit. These are things I ran into. I don't think I'm going to go over them right now, but if you want like a copy of the presentation, if you do start using rules, I'm happy to give this to you, because these are things that like took me forever to find, but were pretty simple once I knew how to actually do it. Commerce all the time, commerce in particular. And then there are some really handy tutorials, free tutorials from Drupalize Me about that go through rules. Again, it's the introduction, it will go through each part, talks about loops and everything. And then they also have a second set called Coding for Rules, where that's how you make your own sort of custom rules and rule actions and all sorts of fun things. Again, this is what I was using for like the test website. Yeah, I think that's it. Any other questions? Are we good? You can come and talk to me afterward too. But anyway, thank you for coming and listening. I hope it was informative. So I think we're out of time. So.